Part 53, guarding him all day, and cut off all the people to see him. The ward was quiet, except for the occasional sound of a distant car horn coming from the window. Xuan Huaifeng looked like he was going to sleep. Unexpectedly, there was a knock on the door twice. Xuan Huaifeng's eyes opened. Bai Xuelan was very unhappy, turned to look, and asked, "Who is it?" Someone answered, "Xuelan, it's me." As he spoke, he opened the door on his own. Lin Qijun, dressed in a gray suit, hurried in. His face was more anxious than anyone else's. His eyebrows were locked together, and he continued, What, are you seriously injured? It's like a bolt from the blue. It can be seen that the world is in chaos now. And no matter how well-behaved people are, they can't keep their peace. Huaifeng, you are really, what should I say? Where the bullets are flying, what are you doing? It's too reassuring. Is it better now? How is the pain on your body? Naturally, he took Xuan Huaifeng's hand hanging by the bedside, wrapped it in his own, and looked at him affectionately. He cares so much. And has the stance of an old classmate. Xuan Huaifeng can only barely hold on to the mentality. He smiled and said, "It's much better. It doesn't hurt so much now." Worried that Bai Xuelan would cause an old illness again, he stole a glance at Bai Xuelan. Bai Xuelan was also staring at the place where the two were shaking hands. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and he said deliberately regretfully, "This is my fault. If I knew he would go to Jinghua building, I wouldn't be so impulsive." Zhou Huo collapsed, causing a shootout. Lin Qijun suddenly noticed, and hurriedly asked, "You really killed Zhou Huo?" Bai Xuelan said, "Do you recognize him? An acquaintance?" Staring at Lin Qijun, a pair of pupils swept across his face as if charged. Lin Qijun felt guilty. He didn't even react when Xuan Huaifeng took his hand from his palm, and he covered up and asked, "What kind of person do you think I am, and would you recognize that kind of person?" "But this person is notorious." "Of course I am. I've heard of it." "Xuelan, you are doing one evil for the society." Happy. Bai Xuelan sneered. "Don't talk about happiness, this is not over yet." Lin Qijun was cold and asked, "Why is it not over? What else do you want to investigate?" Bai Xuelan said, "Of course, there are so many brothers under Zhou Huo who must flee. Desperados are the most terrifying, and they are not afraid of death. Right now, I guess I just want to kidnap and extort money. So if anyone has dealt with Zhou Huo on weekdays and has some money at home, be careful." When Lin Qijun heard that what he said was not about Zhou Huo's comrades, he breathed a sigh of relief, nodded and said, "You are thoughtful, and you deserve to be the chief." In Lin Qijun's heart, Zhou Huo's death is of course a happy event. He smuggled drugs for Zhou Huo. Although he got money, he was worried all the time. With the strength of the Lin family, where would he be short of money? Bai Xuelan actually created a perfect opportunity for him to escape from this criminal misery. When Xuan Huaifeng saw them coming and going, everything he said made people think carefully. After all, he just had surgery and didn't have such a great spirit, so he said, "Qijun, thank you for visiting me. I'm fine. Yes, I just want to sleep for a while." His eyelids drooped halfway. Lin Qijun hurriedly softened his voice. "Then you sleep. I won't disturb you." His original intention was to stay here in Xuan Huaifeng to take care of him, but Bai Xuelan stood in front of him like a door god, and he was escorted by Bai Xuelan. Looking at it with unpredictable eyes, a heart thumped like a broken thing, but it couldn't wait. After a while, Lin Qijun said to Bai Xuelan, "I will stay soon, so that he won't have a good rest. Let's say goodbye first, and see him tomorrow." Bai Xuelan said, "Thank you for coming here." Lin Qijun added and said earnestly, "If the situation changes, please let me know." Bai Xuelan said, "Certainly." As soon as Lin Qijun left, Bai Xuelan immediately walked out the door, called Song Ren over, and said with a sullen face, "Have the newly assigned guards arrived? Tell them to guard the corridor in front and back, and idlers are not allowed to approach. It's a good hospital, a place where patients can rest, no matter Zhang San or Li Si can come in." "Is that a good thing?" Song Ren saluted with a snap, and responded, "Yes." Then he ordered his men to come down, one post here, another post there, while arranging the guards to set up their posts. Suddenly the corridor leaned against the other end of the stairs, and several people came up, all dressed in neat military uniforms, but the styles were quite different from Song Ren and the others. So they went inside. The guards stopped forward, shouted and asked, "Stop, what are you doing? Idlers are not allowed to approach here." The guards on the other side were not vegetarians either. And as soon as they finished speaking, they also started fighting at each other. "You motherfucker is an idler. Don't you have eyes? This is our army commander. Make way. We only know the prime minister and the chief, but not any army commander." Xuan Huaifeng knew that it was the uniform of the General Administration of Customs. So he stood up and stopped the guards on his side, and said to the guards there, "You are from the General Administration of Customs? Do you recognize Adjutant Xuan? That's my second brother." After saying this, the guard's expression improved, and he said, "It turns out to be the younger brother of Adjutant Xuan. I'm sorry. We don't recognize you." Xuan Huaifeng said, "I heard that my second brother was injured. Is it true?" The guard said, "That's true, H is lying in the ward." Behind Xuan Huaifeng, there was a movement immediately. He turned his head, looked at Zan Luzhao's face, turned his head back, and said to the guard, "If that's the case, I want to take a look at him. Please make way." The guard looked at Xuan Huaifeng and then at Zan Luzhao again. Shou's group of foreign soldiers, with embarrassed expressions on their faces, smiled and said in a low voice, "Master Xuan, it's not that I refuse to let you know. Our chief has repeatedly instructed that Adjutant Xuan needs to rest, and no one is allowed to disturb him." The one who didn't say anything snorted coldly at this time and said with majestic voice, "Joke, there are still brothers in the world who are injured. So why are they not allowed to visit them? What kind of customs rules are these?" But the guard was not an ordinary person. He was transferred from Shandong with Song Ren. He had been on the battlefield and killed people. Long bluff. To be kind to Xuan Huaifeng, it is still on the face of the Adjutant Xuan, but to Zan Luzhao, who seems to be Xuan Huaifeng's boss, he said, "I'm sorry. This is our customs chief's the rules of the customs." The little one just listened to the order of the chief of customs. He said that no one can disturb anyone, just not to disturb. The chief said that if you want to visit, you should wait for a while. Adjutant Xuan will visit after a while, but now he will not accept you. Please go back. Zan Luzhao asked. What if I don't go back? The guard smiled and said, then you can just stand here and wait. When he said this was obviously disrespectful to the commander, the guards on Zan Luzhao's side laughed. Then I called my father and mother to fight. When Adjutant's son heard the scolding, he rushed over from the door of the ward and asked, "What's the matter? You're so noisy? Who insists on arguing with us?" Xuan Huaifeng didn't want to quarrel, listened to the guard's meaning. This one can also be the master, and hurriedly introduced himself. Xuan Huaifeng is my second brother, my name is Xuan Huaifeng. Xuan Huaifeng sipped the name. Adjutant's son had heard of it before, and he said with a sigh. It turns out to be Adjutant Xuan's younger brother. He was friendly. Xuan Huaifeng said with a sigh, I want to visit my second brother. Can you make it easier? Adjutant's son looked up and inadvertently glanced at Zan Luzhao, who was tall and sullen, and said with a smile to Xuan Huaifeng, originally there's nothing inconvenient. But the German doctor said that we need to recuperate. Why don't I ask? Please wait here for a while. Xuan Huaifeng said, it's work. Adjutant's son went inside. With such a closed door, it is useless to eat. Xuan Huaifeng doesn't even need to look at it, and he can smell Zhan Luzhao's violent smell like he wants to kill. For some reason, Xuan Huaifeng was in a good mood. Standing beside the army commander, he suddenly started chatting with him in a low voice and said, you don't have to worry. Look at this battle, someone is treating him like a baby. If he was injured, he naturally receives the best care. Why should we look at it so anxiously? Zhan Luzhao looked at the smile on his face, gave him a cold look, and turned his head to the side. After a while, Adjutant's son returned, followed by Bai Xuelan. Xuan Huaifeng was discussing the boredom. When he saw Bai Xuelan coming, he took the initiative to greet him, Chief Bai. Do you remember me? Xuan Huaifeng, we met at the concert. Bai Xuelan said, remember, Huaifeng. Huaifeng's third brother. This is. His gaze fell on Zhan Luzhao. Xuan Huaifeng said hurriedly. Come on, let me introduce you. This is our military commander. Commander, this is the Chief Bai of the General Administration of Customs, my second brother's immediate boss. Bai Xuelan asked. The two come here, what are you doing? Xuan Huaifeng said, then there is no need to ask, of course, it is to visit the second brother. Bai Xuelan saw Zhan Luzhao and was very suspicious. The adjutant's brother was injured, so why did he bring him personally? When the guards came to the hospital, it was absolutely unreasonable. So he smiled and said, I understand your intention. But this Commander Zhan, I don't quite understand, is it also here to visit Huaifeng? Our Huaifeng can't afford it. He said these words on purpose. Sure enough, it was like igniting a raging fire in Zhan Luzhao's heart, hating this arrogant and hateful surname Bai. Is Xuan Huaifeng an item of your General Administration of Customs? Return yours to us. Zhan Luzhao was a rebellious person. Bai Xuelan glanced at him and greeted him unceremoniously. So, he said in a deep voice, is Chief Bai going to investigate? To be honest, Huaifeng and I are old friends. We have known each other since then. I heard that Huaifeng was injured this time. We are old friends, he has something to do, I can't help but take care of him. I made it clear, please make way. Bai Xuelan originally thought it was an eyesore to see him. But when he heard the meaning of these words again, it was not a visit, but an intention to take care of, so he could be classified as an enemy, so he refused to let go. And looked up and down at Zhan Luzhao, and said slowly, it turns out to be an old friend. Huaifeng has been away from Guangdong for a long time. You must have not seen each other for a long time. Right? Xuan Huaifeng said, where? We just made an appointment to eat at Jiangnan restaurant today. It's hospitable. A sour smell came out of Bai Xuelan's trachea. Xuan Huaifeng went out to see Xuan Huaifeng today. He knew it. How could there be such a man in this meeting that he didn't even know? The protection that I thought was not bad was actually so lax. The man with ulterior motives went to eat at the same table with Huaifeng under his nose. Bai Xuelan was unhappy in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face, he still smiled. The doctor ordered. Huaifeng just had an operation, so he can't be disturbed, and now even his own sister has gone home to wait for news. Why don't you wait? He's getting better in a few days. So invite the two of you to come see him again? Zhan Luzhao said coldly, are you kidding me? Let me explain it for a long time, but in the end, you're not allowed to see it. Bai Xuelan said. This is the doctor's order, and I also follow the doctor's order. Zhan Luzhao pursed his chin and raised his chin toward Xuan Huaifeng. You, go get the doctor and I'll ask. Bai Xuelan said. No need, the attending German doctor is in the ward right now. He is in charge of taking care of the Huaifeng at all times. So it's really not appropriate to invite him out. Zhan Luzhao stared at him and asked, "Isn't it okay to see each other?" Bai Xuelan said leisurely. "No." Zhan Luzhao stared at Bai Xuelan with all his strength, his face turned red, and his hand seemed to be about to touch his waist. When the guards behind Bai Xuelan saw it, they immediately raised their guns and pointed at the muzzle showing off. Xuan Huaifeng quickly grabbed Zhan Luzhao's right arm and shouted, "Commander, calm down." He persuaded Zhan Luzhao to say, "Even if I can't see it today, I can still see him in a few days. This is a hospital. There is a lot of noise, and even the patients can't rest well." Bai Xuelan didn't take it seriously. And laughing, with a smile, he turned around and walked to the other end of the corridor. Only Adjutant Sun and the guards were left guarding the entrance, separating the Guangdong group from the outside. Xuan Huaifeng was afraid of revealing Zhan Luzhao really drawing his gun, so he didn't dare to let go of his hand. And he lowered his voice and whispered in his ear. The commander said, "No trouble is allowed in the city, especially no conflict with customs. The city now is a critical period. Don't ruin the commander's important affairs. In contract, when he recovers his body, he will naturally meet. Even if he doesn't see us, he can't even lose that girl. Be patient." "Well, bear with it." That woman was referring to Xiao Feiyan. Zhan Luzhao stared at Bai Xuelan's retreating back, spat fiercely, and said gloomily, "Sooner or later, I'll get it back." After a while of discomfort, it was as if the flesh had been cut with tendons. In his mind, Xuan Huaifeng was like a golden and jade person. He didn't want to know who Xuan Huaifeng interacted with in the capital, and he didn't want to think about it. But now, reality told him all evil and annoying. This surnamed Pai must have done something to Xuan Huaifeng. Bai Xuelan returned to the ward, still sulking. Huaifeng had such a high temper, and he had a meal with other men. Why didn't he even talk to him when he met him? Is it intentional to hide it? The guy had a sullen look on his face, and he was not a gentleman at first glance, but he actually called Huaifeng when he opened his mouth, even omitting his surname, and he was very familiar. This air is stuffy, and the more uncomfortable it is, the more comfortable it is to burst out in an instant. He walked to the bed, but Xuan Huaifeng was still asleep, with long eyelashes covering his eyelids. If a breeze came from an unknown place, he would quiver cutely, his straight nose and slightly pursed lips. In the dream, it showed a childlike defenselessness. Looking at it this way, I can't let out the anger in my heart. Bai Xuelan sat on the edge of the bed, propped his cheeks, stared at his sleeping state, and couldn't help thinking about how to interrogate him later. After waiting for a long time, Xuan Huaifeng didn't mean to wake up, but Adjutant Sun tiptoed in and reported, "Chief, the old woman from Nian's house is here, can you let her in?" Bai Xuelan said, "I'm going out to take a look." "Go outside the ward with Adjutant Sun." It turned out that the guards knew that Zhang Mama was an old servant of Xuan Huaifeng's sister, and had already allowed her to go to the corridor. According to the location of her arrival, the level of treatment she received was even higher than that of Zhan Luzhao, the army commander. Seeing Bai Xuelan come out, Zhang Mama lifted the basket in her hand and said, "I brought soup for the young master." That way, the soup in the porcelain bowl in this basket seemed to be larger than the imperial decree. As she spoke, she glanced at Bai Xuelan's face. After Xuan Dian went home and quarreled with Nian Liangfu, she also listened to a few words and knew that this time the young master ate a gun for Chief Pai. Is this still great? She loves Xuan Huaifeng and has always been on a par with Xuan Dian. She hated Lin Qijun for Xuan Huaifeng in the past, but now she shares the same hatred again. seeing Bai Xuelan as a major threat to Xuan Huaifeng. Glancing at Bai Xuelan's eyes, naturally it is not as kind as before. Bai Xuelan said, "Very good, give me the soup." He reached out to take it. Zhang Ma shrank the basket back, shook her head and said, "No, I will deliver the soup to the young master in person. Besides, as the lady ordered, I will accompany the young master tonight. And I will not leave." Bai Xuelan said, "That's not good. The doctor told him to rest after his injury. No one can disturb him, let alone stay overnight. Give me the soup." Xuan Dian wanted to use an old mother to isolate him from Xuan Huaifeng. That's really a joke. Zhang Ma protested, "What can't be done? Ever since he was a child, the young master has been sick. Which time did I not serve him? He wouldn't eat when I wasn't there." A guard next to him understood what he meant, and immediately shouted with raised eyebrows and raised his eyes, "Give it to him if you want to give it to him. You old mother, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay in the prison of the General Administration of Customs for a few days?" The long gun on his back clicked. Zhang Ma used to obey Commander Xuan's house, and later followed Xuan Dian. She has never been reprimanded so harshly and fiercely. She flinched, raised her head, and said with infinite grievance, "I was called by the young lady. Besides, our family young master." The guard shouted again, "Shut up. Where is all this nonsense coming from? Don't you have eyes? It's martial law here. Bring your things, hurry up and leave. Otherwise, you'll be caught." He grabbed the basket, turned half of his body and held it to Bai Xuelan. "Chief, be careful, it's hot." Bai Xuelan took it, smiled at Zhang Ma and said kindly, "Go back and tell Mrs. Nian, don't bother her. I'll take care of Huaifeng." Holding the basket, he turned around and entered the ward leisurely. Zhang Ma watched the door close in front of her eyes darkened with anger, and she thought to herself, "Miss said that this bastard Chief Pai deliberately asked our young master to block the gun for him, which seemed to be true. Now that he is guarding our young master like this again, is he not willing to let the young master listen to the young lady and quit his job? Why? Oh, by the way, he wants the young master to block the gun for him again. It's really black." She wanted to break in and get the young master out of the hands of this wicked man, but there were several fierce guards standing in front of the door. Zhang Ma hated and feared, and had no choice but to go home with old tears in her eyes and go home to her young lady to complain.